Have you ever wanted to meet the devil?
No, not in particular.
I have.
Okay.
He shows up sexy and dapper, wearing a top hat to cover his horns. And he will punish you and spank your booty if you are naughty. The devil has many names: Old Scratch, Old Horny. That's what they're going to call me after this episode.
You come out in nothing but a top hat. Old Horny's here.
Hey.
This is Two Girls, One Ghost.
Two Girls, One Ghost. And we are your ghostesses. That is Corinne.
Hello.
And I am Sabrina. I brought Daniel today.
Heck yeah.
And I brought another pendulum. I brought a backup
Wait, you
pendulum
have two?
Yeah.
Oh, yes. You have another one. You just don't know if anything is attached to it, right?
Yeah.
Which, in fairness, I'm not sure if anything's attached to my pendulum either. Is it an attachment to the pendulum, or is there just some spirit guide or spirit who utilizes the pendulum around me? I don't know. Daniel!
Yeah.
Wakey!
Are really legit pendulums.
Well, if anyone has any stand recommendations, as you can see, they're struggling a little bit to be here.
Yeah.
Daniel's basically just on display. He's not actually
Daniel's
doing anything.
But that was like, I know Daniel can't really fit on there, but I wanted to make sure he felt included still and was a part of my life because he's my best friend.
Wow. So quickly I went to second place. Just me and a rock.
Daniel sleeps next to me every night.
I'm getting that audio in my head from Elmo from Sesame Street when he gets mad when they celebrate Rocco's birthday because he's like, it's a rock.
No recollection.
Crystals have energy, though, I do believe.
They do. They do. This is part 2 of our Appalachia series.
Mm-hmm.
And today we're going to cover ghost stories from the Appalachia regions and also talk about a couple of witchy things.
Yes. Okay, so I thought that this was the perfect time because we have discussed before, like, what are things we feel like we're baby witches? Mm-hmm. What are things that we can do to feel more witchy? What are some things that seem easy but kind of lend themselves to witchcraft?
And are approachable. Yeah.
Yes. And this was a video I found on TikTok that had nothing to do with witchcraft, but I felt like it was perfect for this.
Oh.
So this girl named Abby B, she posted and said, "Girlies, what are some little things you do to be more whimsical? I love knowing about cute little habits."
I've been tagged in this so many times.
Okay, yes.
Yeah.
I screenshotted it as soon as it came out. So I went through all the comments and I pulled like 10 or 12 little whimsical things that also feel like witchy things.
Amazing. And then after that, I will tell you about a lunar eclipse that's coming up and how we can practice some magic in the lunar eclipse.
Well, there's one about a moon, so I'll read that one last.
Okay.
This person said, "I say affirmations while I braid my hair at night to lock in the goodness." Brilliant.
I braided my hair.
Next time
I got
opportunity.
That's amazing.
Saying, "That's my friend," when passing an animal. Good vibes. It's a lot of putting good energy out into the universe. Every time someone says, "It's 11:11, make a wish," I always wish them the best.
Oh, that's really sweet.
I thank candles before blowing them out.
Apparently, and I learned this in my witch class, which I had yesterday, but you should snuff out candles rather than blow them out, especially if you're doing rituals, because if you blow it out, you're kind of blowing away all the magic and work you've done. But if you kind of, if you let the candle extinguish itself, or if you snuff it out, then it's...
If you suffocate it.
If you suffocate it.
Deprive it of oxygen.
You're trapping your magic within it still.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, I like that. All right. Well, I have one of those little snuffers, so I'll start doing that. So thank you. Snuff.
Thank you. Yeah.
Suffocate. When I'm at a red light, I give it different compliments until it turns green, which is so nice because everyone hates red lights, right? Like, people feel such bad energy towards it.
Red light, you're doing such a good job. You're keeping us all safe.
Doesn't it make you feel bad for red lights now? This is one that I do, and I've talked about doing this. I flip all the tails at pennies I find to heads so others can pick them up for good luck.
I like that one. That's easy.
This one feels very like manipulating time, talking to your future or past self. If I have a big scary day ahead of me, I look at the front door and I wave at my future self to give me courage. I wave back when I get home and I say, "We did it."
Oh, that's so sweet.
I keep a little stuffed animal in my purse and I ask her to hand me things when I need them. That is adorable.
I love that. And I feel like it's become more of a trend for people to like have little stuffies on their purses, like keychains. Just put one in your purse.
Bring trinkets back. What happened to having a purse full of trinkets?
Oh, I think it is coming back. Even those bracelets from Limited 2, the like ones that pinched your
charms.
skin, those are back.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, some trends we don't all have to participate in again.
No. We can appreciate them though.
This is one I really love because you've talked a lot about journaling. Journaling comes up so much when it comes to practicing your craft and doing inner work. And I've always felt very uncomfortable with journaling, but this made me feel a little bit less uncomfortable. This person said, whenever I get a journal, I give it a name and I write all my entries as letters addressed to that name. Smart. I say hello to the mountains and the river as I drive by them. If it's cloudy out, I whisper because the mountains are asleep. And lastly, and to lead into yours, forever a whimsical girl because when I was little, my mom used to bring me outside every night to say goodnight to the moon and stars.
I mean, basically anytime I'm out at night, I look up to the stars and the moon and I speak to it.
Me too, but in my head.
In my head, yeah.
But like full conversation going on.
Yeah.
Somehow prayer feels difficult, but put me under the moon. La 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 la. Chatty Cathy.
Moon is the Lord.
Moon is the Lord.
Praise moon. Speaking of praising the moon, rock. You can do that. We're going to experience a lunar eclipse March 13th to 14th. And it's a really, really good time for you to practice magic.
Can you still practice magic if you are not specifically within the line that will experience the lunar eclipse?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Are we going to be able to see it where we are?
Okay. I think so. Yeah. So during eclipses, they kind of create portals of heightened energy and magic. So if you are a baby witch or if you are trying to astral project or do some of these like more witchy things that feel daunting or hard for us as baby witches, this is the time to try March 13th through 14th, which comes out. The day comes out. The moon comes out and it eclipses.
The timeline is releasing this date.
It is.
Few days after.
Coming soon, a lunar eclipse near you.
Wherever you listen to podcasts.
Released soon. But they believe that there's amplified energy. So spells cast during this time or intention set or things released. If you write down something you want to let go of and you release it to the moon or to the universe during a lunar eclipse, it's said that because the energy is amplified, the energy put into it or taken away is a lot stronger.
So is there a specific thing you should do to release or can you kind of do whatever feels right? Probably both.
Meditating and journaling are a big thing.
Because I was more picturing going out to like a pool or filling up my tub with water and then just putting my head under and screaming out
you should do
what
that.
I want to release.
It's all about intuition. What feels right to you? So go put your head in your bathtub and scream.
Scream at the fish.
Scream at the fish in your bathtub.
This lady. She comes every full moon. Every lunar eclipse.
It's also said to use moonstone or clear quartz to store intentions and magnify them during this time.
Okay.
So if you're into crystal work, rock work, if you rock hard,
you like to
those
tumble?
Are your options. I actually was thinking one of the most important tools as a witch is a grimoire. And it's like a journal, but writing down experiences, rituals that you practice, things that do work and don't work for you. I thought it would be really cool to get a grimoire for the Two Girls, One Ghost table. And anytime anything paranormal happens to us in the studio or while recording, we document it in the grimoire.
Yeah, I like that.
And now that we have our studio, this can kind of almost be our altar in addition to our coffee stand.
That still doesn't have screws in, so we still can't put our microphone stands.
But it's very appropriate for us because we do have a couple screws loose.
We do.
Up here.
And nothing is quite fully finished.
No.
Fully together.
How long have we said we're going to get mic stands?
We can see them. They're in their boxes.
Oh, that's the box?
No, those are.
Oh, those ones. Anyway, that's business we can do offline. But today we have some ghost stories from Appalachia. And as the spooky bitch I am, I went a little devilish, literally.
Well, in the last episode, part of the superstitions was about the devil. Like, do not speak of the devil. Don't say the devil's name at night unless you wish to call upon the devil.
Well, we're going to be saying the devil's name a lot.
Well, good thing it's daytime and we're not specifically in Appalachia.
We are not. We are close.
We're very close.
And I actually drove through Dover, Massachusetts has a famous legend of the Dover demon.
Didn't we cover that?
I was trying to look it up. I don't think we did.
Oh.
I think you covered the Kelly Green Goblins. And there's a lot of connections between the two. People think like the entity that they saw in Dover.
Okay, so that's we probably
is
referenced
connected
it.
to that. Yeah. Oh, and a listener named Terry emailed us, and I have to read this because I'm like, oh, this is, now I get it. Terry from West Virginia said, here's how you pronounce Appalachia. If you put a lay in it, I'll throw an Appalachia.
Yes. I first heard that on My Favorite Murder.
Did you?
Yeah. That's how I've always been able to remember how to say it in the South.
Yeah.
Appalachia.
Yeah. And I don't want an apple thrown at me. So, Appalachia. Have you ever wanted to meet the devil?
No, not in particular.
I have.
Okay. That's unsurprising.
And there are plenty of opportunities to do so in the Appalachian Mountains. You can hike to a peak and visit the devil in a cave. You can peacefully sleep in a tent and have the devil come visit you in the middle of the night. You can even meet the devil when you don't want to, because the devil doesn't care what you want. The devil does what he wants. Or they. We don't know gender. The presence of the devil is profoundly prominent within the Appalachians and has been since the beginning of time. And it's not in the sell your soul, get rich and famous type of way. And it's not necessarily biblical, although there are some biblical ties just based on European settlers who came. But it's very much like the devil in Appalachia is so strategic and so knowledgeable and omnipresent. He will protect you if you are respectful of the land. He will, for a trade, give you knowledge, and he will punish you and spank your booty if you are naughty.
This is reminding me a little bit of Samson and Wayward, where it's like there's kind of this duality where it's like they are beast and they're evil and they're capable of so many things, but there's also so much humanity and empathy and
absolutely
a nurturing flame within their soul.
100%. It's like, you know, when there's like a good like a parent you go to get the yes when the other parent says no. And I know my rule when I have children is to always be unified front, even if we disagree, and then disagree later and then come up with a solution. But that's for another day. But I feel like the devil is this way, where like the devil is like the rule enforcer and the stricter parent. So he has a bad rep because people don't want to be punished. But if you deserve to be punished.
Yeah, good cop, bad cop. But also, let's not forget. So the opposite of the devil, people would say God.
Right.
Think about how many punishments God has handed down. People have lost their lives.
Exactly.
So it's how we're choosing to see both parties.
Which is why I prefer the devil. Daddy is devil.
Oh my God. How many people are like, unsubscribe?
That Satanist. Don't want that. There are kids who listen. Okay, listen. Everything is good and bad. And it's all about how you approach something. Like tofu can be bad for you. Too much plants can be bad for you. Like it's all about how—
I drank way too much tea and my kidneys almost went into failure.
There's someone who died from drinking too much green tea. Yes. Balance.
Balance. You got a little bit of everything.
The duality of life, which I talked a lot about in my witch class yesterday. And I will tell you more about that in the next episode because we'll be talking about a little bit of the spring equinox and rituals that you can do. Because that comes out right before March 20th.
Right before March 20th is released.
Is released. Presented to the world. All right. So this being the devil of Appalachia possesses all of the knowledge of all of the Appalachias. He can appear in a variety of ways and can traverse the 2,050 miles of the Appalachia in a blink of an eye. He is everywhere and nowhere and can offer more than just knowledge, more than just talent, and more than just power or money. The Appalachian devil is a composite of many experiences and beliefs, and kind of like we talked about last episode, where the construct of Appalachia's legends, lores, history, everything is an amalgamation of the native peoples, the colonizers, and the African peoples who were enslaved and brought here. And so you can kind of dissect each legend and story about the devil in different regions of Appalachia and see where the influences come from.
It is kind of crazy that it's like there's 3 different continents that created the culture here.
Right.
A lot of energy, lots of beliefs.
Okay, so the natives and specifically the Cherokee people believed the devil was a malevolent spirit who controlled disease and death and causes both disease and death when humans misbehave. So it was like kind of like that's why there's so much respect for it, because it's like if you betray the land, if you disobey the spirits, the universe, you will be punished by the devil.
Which is, I feel like if you asked or told me this 4 years ago, I'd be like, oh yeah, that makes sense because they needed something to blame. But now it makes me wonder, because there's all those studies where like if you speak really positively to plants, they'll do better and they'll live better. And if you like look at actual water molecules who've been spoken to poorly or
it actually
given compliments, it changes the composition. And so it does make me wonder, when there's so much bad energy festering in the world, is there more opportunity for things, for bacteria and whatever, to almost have a space to multiply? Like, I don't know how that would work, but it just makes me wonder, like, is all this sort of connected?
Absolutely.
Like, if we were all just perfect inner peace, everybody is love and friend and amazing.
Yeah.
What would life be like?
Bliss. Would
there be illness?
But we wouldn't need to be in human form. I think we are in human form to learn.
We ascend.
Lessons. Yes.
Well, what lesson was my psoriasis?
So the devil has power over forces of nature, and while having many different appearances, he often shows up as a dark shadow figure in native traditions, but also has a lot of shape-shifting abilities. Another representation of the devil comes from the African people, who believe he is a cunning trickster who can do good or bad and grant those, both good or bad, to whoever crosses his path. And then the Europeans brought forth this Catholic belief in Satan and devil, and if you're a bad person, you're going to go to hell.
Yeah.
And if you're a witch, we'll kill you.
But we'll practice witchcraft.
And steal literally from the pagan religions and make them our own.
Ridiculous.
Yeah. Just wait until next week. Okay. Sometimes the devil is red. Sometimes he's darker than dark. Sometimes like almost coal black. Sometimes he's seen as a goat. Sometimes he's seen as a dog. Other times he is daddy. He shows up sexy and dapper, wearing a top hat to cover his horns.
Oh, wow. Okay. This reminds me of Papa Legba a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like he's probably got like a really sultry walk and looks you in the eyes, and you just get lost in
Mommy
those.
don't know Daddy's getting up.
Whew, give us a second. Whoa, devil, Satan, daddy. It is said that the devil is a shapeshifter in Appalachia and can appear as anything and anyone except a dove. He cannot shapeshift into a dove.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I like that we're greeted every morning by doves, because it's like the start of a new day, an opportunity to survive the devil.
Yeah, exactly.
It's presented.
The devil has many names: Old Scratch, Crossroads Man, Old Horny, Black Legs, Serpent, and more. And I think
Horny.
Old Horny is because of his horns.
Okay.
But he might, I don't know. That's what they're going to call me after this episode.
That was good.
Making you laugh is the best thing in the world.
Old Horny. We were coming up with our Lady of the Night
That's
names.
my name.
Yours
Old
is
Horny.
Old Horny.
And it transcends all the eras of my life.
You come out in nothing but a top hat. Old Horny's here. And you speak like that.
I'm so here for that. Okay, so despite these various beliefs, what does not change is the fact that everyone believes the devil is present in the Appalachias. And like many spiritual beings, he can be good or evil, depending on what you out there are. If you're good, daddy will treat you well. If you're bad,
No trinkets for you.
spank, spank.
Well,
Some people like that. Is that what you're going to say?
maybe that is a treat for some.
So the devil will always reflect you, and always at the forefront is protecting the land and the environment. So don't disrespect it. He does like the fiddle. Fun fact, and I'll tell you a story about that in a little bit. Who can blame him? But now that we have a little bit of setup and kind of the background of where these beliefs intersect, let's jump into some of the encounters with the devil in Appalachia. There are many, and I'm just going to briefly cover or list a bunch of the things, because Appalachia, as we know, is massive, spans so many states. But there's the Jersey Devil, which we covered in episode 8 so long ago.
Which is in the Pine Barrens of New Jersey.
Mm-hmm. The Dover Demon, which we talked about briefly. The Devil's Tramping Ground, the Devil's Courthouse, the Devil Monkey, Grimm's, the Apple Devil, and the Hart Brothers, who are considered the devil of Appalachia, but they're just two cowboys, basically, who murdered a lot of people.
Okay. Wow.
In that region. Yeah. There's so many more. But I found a couple of places where you can find the devil, or where the devil has encountered the living and the tale has been passed through generations. We're going to start with the Devil's Tramping Ground. It is a place so stained with the devil's presence that nothing will grow here, to the point where people have put something in this circle at night, and by the next morning it's either obliterated or it's just gone.
What in the hell? Literally, what in the hell? How big is this?
It is a 40-foot round plot of land, and it's called the Devil's Tramping Ground in Harper's Crossroads, Bear Creek, North Carolina. There are no trees, no grass, no plants, nothing grows here. And it's 40 feet in diameter. Surrounding that area, trees, wood, plants, vegetation, everything.
Which is like animals, a sharp line that just...
Birds won't fly over it.
That's so strange. Have they done any tests on land? Like, I'm curious if there's some sort of...
I was trying to look it up, and I think that said like there had been tests on the soil, but like there was no scientific...
Yeah, because I'm like, is there some weird gases or some like weird polar shift that's just magnetized like right here in this one spot?
One person said that there is a legend in this area where there was like an oil spill or a chemical spill in this spot, and that's why nothing grows. But it's such a perfect circle.
Yeah.
And animals won't go near it. Like you could stand in the middle of the circle, which I doubt people would be able to stand there for very long, but you could stand there and look up for hours and never see a bird fly over that region. It's like a no-fly zone for the birds.
Which we are also animals and clearly less evolved in terms of understanding where we should and shouldn't be.
Right.
So maybe we look to the birds and we listen. Don't go stand in the middle of the devil's tramping ground.
Yeah. Dogs won't go there. Horses reject walking through that area. And it is said that the devil appears here at night and it's his place to think. You know, everyone needs their spot.
A little contemplation. That's where he journals before the solstice.
And he paces the circle thinking with his thinking hat, sexy hat covering his old horns.
It's his safe space.
Horns. Yeah, it's his safe space. And he plots and plans and
there's a clearing above him because there's no trees, so he can look and speak to the moon and say, Miss Moon, what do I do?
Yeah, he lets go of negative intentions and buries them there, which maybe that's another reason that nothing grows because the ground is carrying all this darkness.
Maybe when people pray and their prayers are not altruistic or for good, it's on behalf of evil, it gets delivered to the devil and he buries them there.
Oh, I love that idea.
He squashes your bad thoughts.
It's the devil's garden, the anti-garden.
Yeah. He processes your bad prayers.
It's the devil's cemetery.
This place doesn't seem so bad because of what we're making it up to be.
Oh, I love this. Apparently, if you hold the soil in your hands, it will like stain your hands for hours, like a really long time. Even if you wash it, it doesn't come off. One person reported, and this is kind of myth and legend, but one person reported that lightning, when it's in that area, it only strikes in this circle, which I kind of think is sick. And
it's absorbing all the energy too.
Yeah. And then I went to Reddit to see if people have been here and experienced anything. And I can't wait to tell you one of these stories. Well, there are a couple, but this one. So there's a story of a man who was hiking and he was pretty tired. So he decided to set up camp. It was dark. And since it was dark, he didn't really get a good look at his surroundings, but he found a clearing and he set up his camp. And he was so excited for a good night's sleep because he had been traveling. He was a weary traveler. Shortly after falling asleep, the man was awoken by a sound. Creak, creak, very steadily creaking. He looked around. It was dark, but he was startled to find beside him, just a little ways away, was an old woman with a bonnet covering her head in a rocking chair, rocking back and forth in the middle of the fucking woods.
Oh.
This woman slowly spoke. This is the devil's tramping grounds. Woe to humans who trespass. And her name was Old Horny. She's performing at the devil's tramping ground.
Is the devil also a theater kid?
For sure. I mean, 72 Demons of Solomon. Yes.
Right. Yeah.
The man, obviously terrified and in shock, starts blinking. He's like, this must be a dream. I'm just going to like close my eyes and I'll open my eyes and she'll be gone. But it made it worse because this woman did not disappear. If anything, her appearance became more clear to him. This woman had no face. Where there should have been a face was just a dark black hole. And that's how the story ends.
It's making me so curious about the woman because I know that you said that the devil can shapeshift. And in the Appalachia specifically, it says he can take any form except for a dove. But just the delivery of like, this is the devil's, like it's almost like it belongs to him, makes me feel like this woman is separate from the devil himself.
It's me in the future.
That's almost what I was wondering. Like what little granny passed away and was like,
hey, daddy,
I am yours.
I don't know. But he's got people protecting his tramping ground. He's like, this is my safe space. I need it for me. Some guy can't come sleep here.
And so you set a little old granny on a
On
rocking
watch.
chair
Yeah.
to watch, which arguably is a very scary image.
In a
Especially in the
rocking
middle,
chair
in the middle of the woods.
Yeah.
Like, it's one thing if you're staying at an old house or like you rent an Airbnb or whatever and it's haunted.
Yeah.
But a rocking chair does not belong in the middle of the woods.
It does not. So a user named APA Panther 2 wrote the following on Reddit. When I was 18, some friends and I decided it would be a good idea to go here to the Devil's Tramping Ground at midnight one night. The GPS leads you to a gate and you have to walk into the woods a good ways to even find the circle. We had one flashlight for the whole group. The trip wandering around the woods was by all means terrifying. We finally found the circle and sure enough, there it was, a circular patch of dirt where nothing was growing, smack in the middle of the woods. We hung out for around 15 minutes or so and heard a couple of animals, but nothing too out of the ordinary. So we decided to leave, but when we got back in the car, it felt like something was watching us. It's hard to explain, but it's that feeling when you're getting looked at. My friend was driving, I was in the passenger seat, and two of our friends were in the back seat. We drove for about 5 minutes and came to a four-way stop. All of us still felt like we were being watched. And then there was a street light providing some dim illumination. And at the corner of this four-way stop, there was a daycare. And in the daycare, there was a swing set with 4 swings. 3 of the swings were completely still. But then the 4th started moving, like someone was swinging in it. It wasn't moving violently or gently, but somewhere in between. That feeling of being watched got worse. The only explanation we could all think of was that some large animal that we didn't see brushed against the swing and ran away, but it was swinging like someone was sitting in there. We kept driving, but still I wonder, what was that?
Okay, I know that this has so much potential to be so scary, but now because of the backstory that we have created for him, for Mr. Horny, or whatever his name is, it does make me wonder if like maybe he's doing some inner child work.
Just swinging on the swings?
And so he's going to the daycare and just like contemplating and gently swinging on the swings and trying to talk to his...
Well, he wanted to go to the circle, but you guys were there, so he went to the swings.
Right, he's waiting for you to be done.
Yeah. People say that when you walk into the circle, all sound disappears, but then you step out and it returns. So it's like this weird portal or like bubble over the space.
Vortex. Which there are some spaces like that, which we went to college at LMU, and there is on the property of LMU, there is one spot like that where they've set up stone for you to like basically stand or sit. And when you go inside of it, it's not like you don't hear anything, but it sounds like you're in a bubble and you can hear all of your own speech like right back to you.
Yeah, it's such so a weird bizarre phenomenon.
Yeah. It's almost like putting on like a noise canceling headphone and talking, so and that's what it sounds.
Yeah. Traps all of your sound there. The land where the Devil's Tramping Ground is private property, so you're not really allowed there without permission, which the owners do permit sometimes. If running into the devil and trespassing on private property doesn't deter you, apparently it's riddled with deer ticks. So, also, I think this episode is really appropriately timed because of everything that's going on with the national parks. And I just want to say, treat our land with love and respect and protect our national parks. It's alive. It really is. It has a heartbeat. It has an energy, and there are animals. There's just so much habitation and life in there. And
yeah. It's kind of shocking. It's something that I didn't know could be undone.
Me neither. It's scary. Another place where you can see the devil is called Devil's Run. This story comes from one of the most haunted places in Appalachia, the Nolichucky River. And there are so many stories from the Nolichucky River, but I'm just going to specifically talk about the Devil's Run. The Nolichucky River is a 115-mile river that flows through western North Carolina and East Tennessee. This one area is known as the Devil's Run because the devil has made his presence known more than once and collects quite a few souls, whisking them away in the violent waters, never to be seen again. There's this rock face called the Devil's Looking Glass, which is a sheer rock wall rising hundreds of feet over the river in Tennessee. And people say that the devil uses it almost as a reflective surface to shave his face.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
But the native peoples warned of the devil in this region for centuries. They knew the devil called this place home and knew better than to mess with him. But the Yuchi and the Cherokee people believed the rocks held evil spirits. And they're definitely onto something because as night comes, people hear a cacophony of cries, all screaming in agony, emanating from these rocks. As is common with, the non-native people, when settlers came in, they're like, pish posh, rubbish with that.
Yes.
There's no such thing as evil spirits in the rocks. They should have heeded the warnings because for years, people would die in this area. And then people started hearing the sounds of hooves walking along the riverbanks. And because the way that people were dying, they thought that it was like a human responsible for it. So they would hear these hooves kind of clip-clopping through the woods at night that they thought maybe there was a man riding a horse killing people.
Wow.
Which was also common during this time. It's like murder.
Well, and you were talking about those two cowboys, the murderous cowboy duo.
Brothers. People were like, we're going to catch this guy.
Mm-hmm.
And so a group of men decided to catch this beastly man who had been out scaring people for so many years and was responsible for taking their loved ones. And they devised a plan. They camped out along the river and tied a rope to a tree by the water. As night fell, they grabbed hold of the rope and kind of like set up a booby trap where they like tied it around one end of the tree, went deeper into the woods and held it out. And it was like along the path that this horse rider would go.
Mm-hmm.
They wait. They're holding this rope with all of their strength and they're hearing their heartbeats and they're scared, but they're also excited. And they're like, they're finally going to catch this guy.
Well, because they think it's a human and a horse and there's a bunch of them. So of course you're like,
they think they're going to get him. Slowly, they start to hear the sound of the hoofs getting closer and closer, traversing this land, which is kind of treacherous with like stones and rocks, seemingly effortlessly. It's so close now that they're like, any second now, we're going to catch him. And all of a sudden, the rope is struck with such force that all of the men are flown off of their feet, hitting the ground. So they let go of the rope. When they finally get to their feet and like run to see if they caught this horseman, nothing. The man is gone. The horse is gone. Whoever this was had such strength and force that it took out like 4 men.
Which I guess if it was a horse riding with a certain speed, it could do that easily. But also I feel like you would hear the horse.
Then like go away or
You'd hear
say
the breath,
something.
You'd hear noises. You'd hear like the...
There would have been pain.
Right.
Yeah. So they're furious and they're like, what the hell? How come we can't even see evidence of this? Like the horse is gone. Like we should be able to see him continuing this way.
Yeah.
But then they start to look at the hoof prints left behind and they did not belong to a horse. They belonged to a goat.
Oh my freaking God.
Mm-hmm. And then they were like, oh, okay, maybe the devil does live here. And maybe the devil is making himself known to us. And so since this discovery and since realizing the natives were indeed correct, that the devil does live there, people are very reticent to go down to this area. Like fishermen never go by themselves. People travel in packs. And if they don't have to, they're like, we're not going to go here.
I am curious about the rocks because I know that you said that the legend is that there's evil spirits trapped in these rocks.
Mm-hmm.
But it makes me wonder, are there evil spirits or are these just sort of like these poor, unfortunate souls that are... Well, and maybe they could have been evil in life. It's
Unfortunate souls.
But it's reminding me of the Grimm's Brother fairy tale, like the original Cinderella, where the stepsisters their eyes are plucked out and they're turned to stone. Where it's like, could there be people who
disrespected the land and now became the land, which is the best punishment fitting the crime. Truly like becoming the land. And now you get to be mistreated by people like you and then they'll join you.
This is well thought through, Mr. Devil.
I agree. So people who do go down there and survive to tell the tale say that they see the devil shaving his face in the devil's looking glass and they'll hear the devil laugh at you. Or some people say that they watch him watching you and he kind of appears with this like entourage of foggy clouds following him.
That's very cool.
It is very cool. Another place where you can visit the devil, because maybe you're like, I'm a little feral and I would like to go say howdy ho to the devil. There's another place where you can go. It is called the Devil's Courthouse, and it's located in North Carolina within the Pisgah National Forest. It is a 0.5-mile hike, but it is treacherous. It has breathtaking views, and they like recommend that you should not hike it unless you're a very experienced hiker.
Wow. It's so short. So is it just extremely steep? It's like this very, very quick elevation.
So should you survive the treacherous hike, you can get up there and visit a cave that the devil holds court within. So this hike was named after a legend told by colonizers who believed the devil held court within the cave beneath the ominous cliffside and would make decisions regarding humans in the area, pass judgments, punish or reward the people. But the legend actually goes far beyond the colonizers. It goes back to the Cherokee people who believed that the cave was home to Judakula, a slanted-eyed giant with a booming voice who controlled the weather, specifically rain, wind, and thunder. And when storms arose, the Cherokee knew who controlled it. They feared Judakula, and like Judakula was like a demonic or devilish type entity, but they also revered him because they knew without the rain, they'd have no crops. and they respected and praised him and his powers. And they knew if there were storms that were dangerous, it was almost like a warning to them that maybe they've done something wrong or that they need to heed some type of lesson. The Cherokee believed that the Judicula dwelled in this cave and protected it as it was an entry to the other side. So when spirits passed on, or when people passed on, they would go to this cave because it was an entryway to the other side. And the Judicula would almost pass judgment on their souls.
Wow, that's really scary to have him basically be in control of your life and your afterlife.
Yeah. But if you were a good person, he would grant you access to the other side. Most people have not seen the Judicula, but his presence is felt, or the devil, if that's how you would like to call it. And a lot of people who hike this trail report a very strong supernatural energy, like the atmosphere is charged in a different way and something watching you. There's a ton of unexplained phenomena on this mountain, like unexplained lights, strange temperature shifts, strange sounds like drumming and whispers carried by the wind. People report seeing shadows move within the trees or shadows standing atop the cliff staring down at them at night. But like I said, there are a lot of people who have died on this trail. So there is some belief that maybe it's the spirits of them, like where they
maybe
passed on.
I feel like camping in this area or just doing anything at night in this area would be so scary. And it reminds me of all of those Reddit stories. You don't even have to like deep dive in Reddit. It's very like surface level. You find it immediately when looking up the Appalachian Trail camping and hiking stories. There's so many people that hear that, like the drumming, getting stalked by shadows of people through the woods.
Yeah.
It's terrifying.
Terrifying. And if you're camping, it's not the easiest to like get back to civilization.
Right.
You're in the wilderness. But this mysterious lights is actually so common throughout the Appalachia. There's the Brown Mountain lights, which is kind of one of the famous instances of it. But they're so unexplained, and it's almost like lights darting in and out of the mountains. The native people believe that these are the souls of spirits who have passed on, and they view it as like a very beautiful thing. Other people view it as aliens or some weird electrical charging that's happening in this region that can't be explained by science in the terms that we know today or have today. But you can hike it. It's located at milepost 422.4 of Blue Ridge Parkway. By hiking the 0.5 miles, you go all the way up to 5,720 feet at the peak.
Wow.
So it's very steep.
Yeah.
It is home to rare and fragile plants and animals, so you cannot go off the trail. One, for your own safety, and then safety of all these living creatures. But if you really want to meet the devil, maybe it's worth it. Or it's also worth it because you can see from the very top, you can see 4 states. You can see North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, and Tennessee. So it's got a beautiful
that's really cool
view.
Also, I feel like through the research of Appalachia, I feel like the Carolinas and Virginia by far are like the pocket of so much activity. It's like everything that happens in the Appalachia, there could be like a little bit up in Maine, a little bit down in Georgia, but it's like
the concentration of energy.
It's everything is happening there.
Right. And I think that's why people, when you talk about Appalachia region, people primarily focus on that area because it's so heavily dense with all this energy.
All the activity, yeah.
Yeah. I have the story of the fiddler now.
Ooh.
So like I said in the beginning, the devil likes the fiddle. And there is a story.
He appreciates the arts.
He does. And there's a story of these 2 fiddlers who were up in the mountains in Georgia. And they came upon this big house full of people. And it was like a party. And music was going on. They were dancing, partying. And they were like, let's play. Let's join in. So they take out their fiddles and they start playing music. The party goers like start hearing the fiddlers playing. And they go from dancing to like fucking raging, having the best time. And this really handsome man dressed to the nines in a dapper suit and hat walks up to them. He has this like beautiful smile and he's kind of got like a little shine in his eyes. And he thanks them. He's like, your music is beautiful. Thank you so much for playing for me and for my friends. And he gives a little like wink and a smile. And he tips his hat and he goes off and he pulls a beautiful woman from the crowd and starts like spinning her around and around and around to the point where people start spinning and dancing in a nauseating way that is hyper real and too quick for what humans can do. That's creepy. And then all of a sudden, everyone disappears except for the 2 fiddlers. They had come upon the devil having a party.
Which, oh God, this makes me wonder too. Like, is the devil, are these people or beings or whatever it is, like actual party goers? Does he have a social life? Or is he basically like projecting this and manifesting this so that he can have some fun?
I hope he has friends.
Me too.
I hope he's having like the best ragers and parties going. Like it's the invite of the year. It's the Met Gala of the underworld going to the devil's party on the Appalachia Mountains. But since then, there are a lot of superstitions about the fiddle that exist in the Appalachia region, that it's not safe to bring them inside of your home and they must be kept on the porch or hung in the barn. It said bringing it inside would bring bad luck, or maybe the devil likes it so much that he's going to come fiddle your fiddle inside your home.
Mr. Horny.
Mr. Old Horny.
I feel like fiddles would be a good thing. Like you're automatically declaring yourself friend.
Right.
To be trusted.
Yeah.
Here for a good time.
Exactly. Welcome to my party. Yeah. But to be safe, leave it on your porch. There are like many legends of the devil actually really helping people in addition to liking the fiddle. There was like a story of an old man who was a drunk who was abusive to his wife and kids and really mean to them. And one night he was walking home and he heard footsteps behind him and he stopped. He like turned to look and no one was there. He keeps walking home and he's drunk. He's stumbling home and he hears those footsteps again. This time now they're joined by like the sounds of chains, which is almost very Scrooge Christmas Carol. But he turns again to look and this time out of the woods from a stone jumps someone. Like someone jumps onto him and tramples him and attacks him. And he's so strong, he can't defeat this man attacker. The attacker basically tells him, treat your family better or next time I won't let you go.
You'll be turned to stone.
The man runs home that night, goes straight to his bedroom, doesn't even interact with his family, doesn't pick a fight. And he's so shaken by his experience that the next day he goes to look at the area where he was attacked. There are chains left behind. And in addition to his footprints, there are hoof prints of a goat.
Oh my God.
He never once was mean to his family again.
Good.
Yeah.
When we first started the podcast, I was the devil is evil. The scariest thing we could ever encounter is the devil. And then through all of the research and stories that we've heard, I really do feel like it is kind of this misunderstood entity that, maybe has so much power that there could be so much bad associated with them.
Right. And the devil is like an all-encompassing term. Like it's not Satan in the way that we necessarily, as two women who were brought up Catholic, were taught about this entity. The devil is, it almost feels like the devil is many beings and is nature. It's a protector. And so to wrap it up, I think we can all agree that the devil here isn't bad per se, unless you're naughty, unless you're bad. Hey, Santa doesn't give you gifts if you're naughty.
It's like Pele in Hawaii too. Yeah. There's so many examples of this.
So many. So it's not recommended to go to a lot of these places or to disobey these lands, especially by the native peoples. And I think they're the ones whose rules we should probably obey and follow.
They've been there the longest. They know the land.
They know the most. Just respect everyone in the land and I think you'll be safe. And maybe you're like, hey, you were really selling the devil to me and I kind of want to date with him. There are a couple of ways, three ways, which I'm going to tell you to conclude my section about how you can call upon the devil. And maybe during the lunar eclipse on the 13th and 14th, you try one of these. This one seems a little bit hard. You go to a family cemetery at midnight, stand on the oldest grave, undress to your nudie new, and at midnight, renounce the church, renounce Christ, and then recite the Lord's Prayer backwards, which also sounds complicated. Once you complete this, the devil will appear and you two can skip the dinner and just go to
do whatever you want.
Bed, which in this case is the grave. An easier alternative is you can make a flower circle in your home, kneel in the center, and hold out your hand as you invite the devil into your home and into your circle. And if that's too domestic and you want to get a little filthy, but not as filthy as having sex in a cemetery on your ancestor's grave, you can go into the road. Oh, also if
that seems dangerous.
Yeah, I know. And if you really like patting your head and rubbing your stomach at the same time, this might be for you. So you can go into the road late at night, make a circle around you, kneel within it, put one hand on your foot and another on your head. I can't do it with my microphone. And speak out loud, "Take me, devil, ring and all."
What I do appreciate about these three things is that they're not something that you could accidentally do.
True. You definitely cannot accidentally renounce the church and recite the Lord's Prayer backwards.
No, there is a lot of intention and a lot of opportunity to stop what you're doing before it's done.
Yes. That's the devil of Appalachia and a very small version or just
Yeah.
a few stories of the devil in the Appalachians.
There's just so much going on in the Appalachia when it comes to like ghosts and the devil and alien activity and cryptids. And it does make me wonder, since the devil does seem like this big sort of force and power that has access to spirits and things like that. It does make me wonder what the relationship is between all of the things that exist in this mountain range. Are they aware of one another? Do they all chat? Do they attend the devil's parties?
Oh, I like that idea. Like the devil's party is all of the spirits within the Appalachias gathering
They all get to go.
a party. It's like a conference that happens once a year, and each night they have like the big party after the conference. They talk through the good, the bad, their hauntings, and then they have parties.
Hopefully the cryptids get invited too. I don't know how
I
they
hope
can play
so.
into this, but that would be fun. It's Halloween Town. It's all the creatures coming together to
Appalachia
celebrate.
is Halloween Town.
Yes. And perhaps some of our listeners have encountered something quite sinister.
They
in
sure
Appalachia.
have.
Because of course we have a ton of emails from all of you who've survived hauntings, who have dared enter the Appalachia.
And this is also a call to action. If you do have encounters from that region and you have not emailed them to us, please do. I was so excited because after our ghost photo episode came out on YouTube, we got like in the last week 30 new ghost photo emails.
Which is wild that you guys are sitting on this.
How rude, but do it.
Email us.
Email us.
Okay, this is from our listener, Julia. It's called Unknown Appalachian Cryptids, or just some weird cult members. Or maybe the devil.
Ooh.
Hi, my spooky queens.
Hey.
I have a relatively short story from my time backpacking in the Appalachian back in 2017.
Did you do the whole trail?
I know, I'm so curious. Okay, I grew up in the woods of Pennsylvania, and I've always felt at ease when I go wandering through the woods. My mom and I decided it would be fun to hike a section of the Appalachian Trail as a little bonding trip for us.
Cute.
We started the hike in central Pennsylvania about an hour from our house, and all was well until it started to absolutely downpour. We set up camp with our soggy tents and sleeping bags, and we're in for a rough night's sleep.
Yeah.
At about 5 a.m., my mom and I wake to someone throwing rocks or sticks at our tent. And mind you, it's still super dark outside and also torrential rain. I look at my mom and she is freaked. And I'm freaked. Who would be trying to get our attention this early, so far off from the main trail and miles away from the trailhead? My mom unzips the tent, and to our absolute horror, there are 3 cloaked figures standing there. They were dressed in black from head to toe, and from what I can recall, I remember thinking one was a woman and the other 2 were men. And the creepiest part, they had no backpacks, no gear of any kind. They were silent, unmoving. My mom slowly zips the flap back up and shushes me to be quiet. Like, yes, Mom, they definitely don't know that we're here after seeing us peek our heads out.
I mean, they knew. They were throwing rocks at you guys.
Right. But I guess it worked because we both eventually fell back asleep and had quite the conversation when the sun came up. I've looked up cryptids in the region and I just can't find anything that matches their description, but this has stuck with me for nearly 8 years. Leading up to this and for the rest of our hike, the energy was just way off and I could not wait to make it to our endpoint. All I can say is thank God I was not aware of the lore of the surroundings and of this mountain range prior to the trip. I would have never agreed to tent camp on it. Needless to say, I will not be doing that again. Thank you. I now live in Charleston, South Carolina, and I work in a most definitely haunted research lab that was built in the 50s, right where the first shots of the Civil War went off.
Damn.
I have a few friendly ghost stories from here, but I'll send those in later. Thank you for all that you do and for keeping me and the lab ghosts entertained. Spookiest wishes, Julia.
I mean, if they are real humans, that is scarier than anything. But I also, after talking about the devil and viewing the devil as more of a protector, I almost feel like all of these entities that live in this land are protectors.
Mhm.
And if they are spirits, they wear the black cloaks to kind of move in disguise. And they didn't mean to, I don't know. Or maybe they were protecting you from something. They wanted you to peek out because something was going to happen if you didn't.
Yeah, I don't know. Or maybe they just like needed to see you to understand your intentions, to kind of like absorb who you were and why you were there. Because it was downpour, so it's also kind of like a
Yeah.
But yeah, maybe to your point, let's reframe this. Maybe they were misunderstood and they did kind of create this protective bubble around you and protected you from whatever was going to come with that rain and that storm.
I don't know.
But it's so creepy.
It's so creepy.
And it also goes with so many stories. Again, like I referenced Reddit, and you talked a lot about all the people feeling shadows and seeing shadows on the ridges and all that stuff. Like this is something that comes up time and time again. It's not necessarily cryptid, but there are shadows of people stalking campers, stalking hikers, and behaving just like this, where it's like you feel like there's some sort of negative intent behind them.
Right. They're watching
feel
you.
scared.
Right.
And they're unmoving. They're completely still when you see them.
Like the fact that Julia and her mom fell back to sleep.
I know.
I don't know how. I would never be able to do that.
Probably so exhausted from fear that you eventually just
shocked.
out.
Yeah. Whew. Well, glad you survived to tell us the tale. I have a story from our listener, Rix, and it's called Ghosts, Hexes, and Hell, Appalachian Granny. Hey, ladies, I recently discovered your podcast while falling into a YouTube hole. You know how it goes. I have a fun lore story about my grandmother and all the crazy shit she's pulled. She's from Rome, Georgia, which is a small town on the northwest side of Georgia near Alabama, tucked into the foothills of Appalachian Mountains. I would like to note that my granny is batshit under the guise of a little old Southern Baptist. All my life, I've heard her crazy-ass stories and the actual stories retold by my mother. So here are a few of my favorites. My granny would hex people's land because she liked their house, and then she would buy that house when it went for sale a few months later.
What in the world?
My granny found out my grandpa was cheating, and she drove up to the local gas station where he was on the phone with a woman and threatened to shoot him. She said she didn't ultimately kill him because his knees started shaking and she thought it was funny.
Maybe this is the granny in the rocking chair.
Honestly,
she seems like she could definitely be fit for that role.
Yes. She burnt one of her 4 ex-husband's pants in the bathtub because he pissed her off. This was also the first time my mom brought my dad home to meet my granny. Welcome to the fam.
Whew, wow.
Also, that burn stain is still in the bathtub, or it was until I was in high school. But paranormal shit seems to follow her around. I think it's because she's evil, but no one really believes me. When my mom was a kid, they moved into a house where weird shit would happen all the time. Electronics turning themselves on, hearing footsteps, blinds shutting, you name it. One day, the whole family was home, Granny, Grandpa, Mom, and her brother, and right under the attic door in the ceiling, they saw what looked like a flame from a candle hovering below it. They closed all the doors and windows, checked lights and mirrors to see if it was some weird reflection. You couldn't touch it, move it, nothing. They still don't know what it was and apparently it just disappeared. Well, a few days later, they looked out of the living room window and saw red glowing eyes sitting in the car.
Oh my God.
My grandpa, who was a tank of a man, said, "Aw, hell no," and went out there to see what it was. He got out there and of course, as things go, no red eyes. He and the family moved out of that house the next week. Fast forward to the condo they bought right after that. My mom grew up there, I grew up there, and my mom still lives there. Haunted AF. When I was a kid, the same shit would happen. Blinds moving with no window open or air conditioner on. Electronics would turn themselves on and off. Sometimes you would hear classical music seemingly playing out of nowhere. And this still happens. When I was a teen, I was walking into the downstairs bathroom. And to get to the bathroom, you have to walk down maybe this 16-foot hall that had a washer and dryer in it. And at the end was the door to the bathroom. But the door was removed. We used to go to hang up our jackets to dry them on the door trim. And I had one of my mom's big jackets there for a while because there was nowhere else to put it. While walking down the hall, I didn't bother to turn the light on because I would usually just turn on the bathroom light when I got there. And to get into the bathroom, you'd have to push the jacket aside. So I saw the black shadow of the jacket and I went to push it to the side. And to my surprise, the jacket was not there. I fell into the wall. There was a shadow, not a jacket.
Excuse me?
I didn't think much of it because it was dark. So I did my business, turned off the light, and started walking down the hall to the living room. But I had the most eerie feeling like someone was behind me. I rushed to the end of the hall, and when I did, I turned and looked like an idiot and literally got bum rushed by this big, dark shadow figure. I've never called my mother so fast in my life. Turns out my awesome, totally not evil grandmother left a fucking Ouija board in the attic with the goddamn planchette on the board. So for literally ever since moving in that house, there was an open fucking portal to God knows what chilling in the ceiling.
A granny knew. Granny was communing with something.
Absolutely.
They said, "Hey, leave this open for us." And she said, "I got you.
I got you." My mom found it, goodbye, cleansed the house, and we moved on with our lives. And scary stuff did stop happening, but there's definitely still something or someone there. When I was in high school, I was getting ready for bed, watching something on TV or whatever I did in high school, and I felt like someone was squeezing my shin. I freaked the fuck out, ran into my mom's room and told her what happened. And she just wide-eyed and smiled and said, "That's your grandpa." My grandpa had passed when my mom was 16 in a car crash.
Oh.
And she said that when he would put them to bed before he passed away, he would squeeze their legs and tell them he loved them.
Oh.
So she thought that Grandpa was putting me to bed and telling me he loved me. Back then, I was freaked out thinking that some demon was trying to drag me to the underworld. But now I think, wow, that's endearing. I never got to meet him, but he got to communicate with us. Till this day, I still believe that Grandpa is still hanging out in the house with Mom and watching over us. We hear footsteps, music plays, knocks happen all the time. And now I kind of miss living there, to be honest. Oh, and also there's a lady that walks down the sidewalk in a white nightgown. And a kid, I think, he wears a striped red sweater shirt with a blue trim. Mom and I have always been sensitive and we have both seen them, but we don't know who they are or where they came from. And to clarify, they are definitely not alive.
Oh, wow. But they're together. But their outfits seem mismatched.
I don't know if they're together. Maybe. But they walk down the road, yeah. Also, in addition, to wrap this up with another story of my granny, we get hurricanes all the time. And years ago, we had a really big one. Granny lived in a tin can down by a creek in an elderly mobile home park. Her entire neighborhood flooded once. And when the evacuation was over, we went to go check out her place, expecting it to be soggy and ruined and underwater like all of the other places were in her mobile home park. But we show up and the water had gone down, but you could clearly see her where it had been halfway up the front door. When we walked inside, though, her house was bone dry.
Yeah, because she has made some deals to keep herself protected. And that's that. Granny's got to do what Granny's got to do.
Rick says she turns 84 this year and is still evil as shit. She tells us we're all going to hell every time we disagree with her. She files her nails into literal daggers, puts her white-ass hair into a big beehive bow, lives off sweets and carbs, and I think she's going to outlive us all. Stay creepy, Ricks.
Ricks, I'm scared of your granny.
Yeah.
But she's also kind of iconic.
She is. I mean, hey, she had to put up with some shit, and so she built some walls and filed her nails into daggers.
Yeah. Be the scariest thing in the room is Granny's motto, I think.
Survival of the scariest rather than the fittest.
Damn.
Yeah.
I hope, like Ricks was saying, that their grandfather is in the house because it does sound like there's a lot that has access to that house. There's a lot of opportunity for different entities to pass through.
Oh, yeah.
So having at least one protective spirit there is a really positive thing.
Yeah. And thank goodness that board has been closed now because just imagine finding a Ouija board just open. Planchette on the board. No thanks.
I don't know.
Close it out.
I guess it depends on where I am.
Yeah.
If I'm living in the house, you have no other option. You have to close it out. But if it's just some random place, I'm never out of there. I'm never going back.
I wouldn't want to touch. Like, I wouldn't know.
Right. Yeah. It seems like a trap. It's set up for you.
Exactly. Well, next week, we're going to cover cryptids in Appalachia. And there's so many stories from Appalachia. So we are going to, we've even doing the research for these couple of episodes, this 3-parter that we decided to do, you and I both have added future
because you search up one topic and you're like, oh, but this is such a good story. Oh, but this is such a good story.
Exactly.
So Appalachia does not end with this 3-parter. It will, every few weeks, we're probably going to have
just like
from
the devil
region.
is omnipresent in the Appalachia is omnipresent within our brains on Two Girls, One Ghost.
So if you live in the Appalachia, if you've experienced anything weird in the woods, on the trail, in a haunted home, in a weird little spooky inn atop the mountains, please email us at twogirlsoneghostpodcast@gmail.com. You can also tell people to listen to our podcast, rate and review, watch us on YouTube, follow us on social media, all the things to support our show. We appreciate it.
And if you want episodes ad-free and 1 week early, plus bonus episodes once a month and campfire stories every Tuesday where you can come join us live and share your story in person, on Zoom, virtually in person, you can join us on Patreon. It's $5 a month and you get all of that and more.
Thank you to Jamie Ryan for editing and producing our podcast.
And we love you all.
And we will see you on the other side.